Ladies and gentlemen, we welcome to the show friend of ours, the affable leader of the World Boxing Council, the WBC. His name is Mauricio Sulaiman. And fans of the show probably know that sanctioning bodies as a whole, sometimes they catch flack, honestly, from media and from fans. I have a theory on that. I think it is because they are a convenient whipping post at times. Media who wants to act brave can take a shot at a Mauricio or one of the other sanctioning body people and ascribe to them all the current ills in the sport. Why? Because it's easier than doing it to other powerful people. If someone wants to take a shot at a Floyd Mayweather or a Bud Crawford or what have you, well, there might be some blowback. Bob Arum, if you take a shot at him, there's going to be blowback. This guy Sulaiman, though, he's an affable guy. And guess what? Folks, I don't always agree with him, but I respect him. And so we're going to get into the hows and whys of that. Welcoming to the show right now, Mr. Mauricio Sulaiman. Happy New Year, Mauricio.
Happy New Year, my good friend Michael, and thank you so much for this opportunity.
See, friend, see how he does that. Now, he has a certain charm about him, and that's one of the reasons I like him. Let me tell you a little bit about the World Boxing Council, WBC. Sanctioning body formed in 1963, and as a matter of fact, Mauricio's father preceded him, ran the oversight body from 1975, I believe, until 2014 when he passed away. Mauricio, that is correct? Your dad ran the show from 75 to 2014?
Yes, that's correct.
All right. So, as I touched on in the intro, now these sanctioning bodies, they're integral to the sport and not always loved across the board. But to me, honestly, the WBC and Mauricio, day in, day out, I think they deserve more credit than they are often bestowed. We're going to delve into sort of what they do well, what they can do better. I have asked the friends on Twitter for questions, so we'll fire a couple at Mauricio. And then he's going to tell us a story about the reason I reached out to him. Saw him in the last couple months, and he's been trimming down. He's a big guy. He's like me. He's a big guy, but he's been trimming down. So I wanted to know about diet tips, and it turns out there's actually a really compelling story why Mauricio is trimmed down. So we're going to leave you on the hook for that, and we're going to get to it later. Right now, Mauricio, I'm going to ask you to do a little roll call. Is there any pertinent, pressing business that is fresh to us right now as far as any of the WBC champions, any movement as far as vacant title belts or title shots? What's going on within the WBC right now?
Well, we have, the way the WBC is structured, we have 166 countries affiliated through continental federations. And we meet once a year in the annual convention where we review the year and we plan for the next year, with one of the top priorities being the mandatory of each division. So next Monday we're going to publish, that's one thing we believe very strongly since the last 5-6 years, to publicly put what is the status of each division. And we do that every 3 months to keep the transparency of the organization, because what is ruled by the Board of Governors has to be administered throughout the year. And we believe in transparency and the fans to be able to track down what is the status of each single division, the champion, and the commitments to do the mandatory defenses. We have taken a strong stance in trying to make the best fights happen, even if that includes fights against champions of another organizations. So, being said that, we had our annual convention in the Ukraine, and we did several rulings, which now, in the month of January and February, have to be administered. One fight that is clear is Charlo Harrison. The WBC board has voted in favor to order a direct rematch. The other great fight that is going to be happening soon is the rematch between Wilder and Fury. And Mikey Garcia is going to be fighting in welterweight. He's going to be representing the WBC as lightweight champion. When he finishes that fight, he will let the WBC know what is his preference, if he will like to continue in welterweight or come back to defend the lightweight title. So by Monday next week, you will have a list of each division and the status of each one.
Good stuff, my friend. Now, I do think, by and large, not across the board, I think the WBC often has the best champions of all the sanctioning bodies. A lot of us like to focus on the heavyweights, so let's give a little love to the heavyweights right now. Deontay Wilder is the champion. Mauricio, I'm gonna ask you to put the truth serum into your body right now, and I'm gonna ask you, Wilder versus Fury, who did you have winning the fight and why?
Look, I believe that only three persons can be asked about the scores. Those are the judges. Every single person outside of being a judge has a complete different evaluation. Let me give you some examples. The judge is the only one sitting right next to the ring that has only that view of the fighters. Anyone else is either one row behind or many rows behind, or you are watching through television. So it's a different view.
Right.
The judge does not have any favorite when he's watching a fight. The fans and many others have either a favorite or a bias for some reason for one or the other fighters. The judge is not or should not be hangover or taking a nice beer during the fight.
He definitely should be hungover and drinking beer during the fight. I like that, Mauricio. Yes, please. We're on the same page, my friend. Continue.
But that is the truth. I mean, we all enjoy sports, and if I go to a football game, I like to have my beer or my whiskey.
Right.
You know, as a fan, you enjoy the event. Also, the judges, they do not get distractions. You know, when you're a fan, when you're a reporter, when you're a supervisor, I'm sitting there, but I'm writing, I'm checking the rules. I have to look up other things. To judge a round, you have to be 3 minutes concentrated for the 12 full rounds. The Tyson-Fury-Wilder fight was very close, very entertaining, highly dramatic, and my belief is that the draw at the end was a fair result.
Fair enough, Mauricio. Now, one of those scorecards, a lot of people, they didn't like it. And I like how you touched on the fact that, these guys, we should be assuming that they have no favorite going into it. Mauricio, I always try to assume that. I think too many people run with conspiracy theories these days, and I'm not just talking in boxing, in everything. When we can't explain something, we can't wrap our brains around it. People these days are prone to indulging in wild speculation and often not labeling it as speculation or opinion. But a lot of people were saying after they watched Wilder Fury, well, that judge that had it 118, 110 for Wilder, that guy is corrupted. I don't like when people just opine that people are corrupted. If you want to do some reporting and you want to find that there is some corruption, then have at it. But until then, I feel like none of us should be doing that. That said, when you see a scorecard like that most people, right, or a large majority, shall we say, seem to say that that scorecard is out of whack. What do you do to the guy? You're not a person who smashes people in public and tries to score points. That's not your way. But Mauricio, do you call the guy and say, hey, listen, that scorecard was out of whack. Can you explain it to me? What do you do in these situations? I ask in the context of all of us want to see fewer of these controversial decisions. We want the judges to get it right whenever we can.
Look, the scorecard that you're referring to, the number was 115-111. That was Alejandro Rochin.
Okay.
So we analyzed it and we have reviewed it. That scorecard and the others and the fight. We have a committee, and every single event, the judge and the referee receives a grading of how he performed and also there's a rating of the ring officials. So if we go directly into Roshin, he gave 5 rounds to Fury, he gave 7 rounds to Wilder. Of course, with the 2 knockdowns, then you add up two more points. That makes it a much wider. The difference between him and the judge that gave it a draw is 2 rounds.
Okay.
The difference between him and the judge that gave it to Fury, then it becomes 4 rounds. So there is not uniformity, but when you go round by round, it is, I believe, the first 4 rounds, Rochin gave them to Wilder. And that's where the whole thing, the whole scorecard changes. Had he given 1 round or 2 rounds to Fury out of the first 4, then there would be no controversy whatsoever. So I understand when you see a fight that is very close and then you see a 4-point differential or 8-point differential, of course you get upset.
Right.
In football, you get upset. I throw my soda to the screen when something happens to the Cowboys, and I blame the official.
Hold on a second. Have you wrecked televisions by throwing soda at the screen? You can throw your shoe at the screen, not hard, but you can't throw sodas at the screen, Mauricio. Are you a TV wrecker?
When I was a kid, I broke a television, and I regret that for the rest of my life.
Yes.
That caused me. But I'm a passionate sports, and I understand the fans' frustration when something happens in boxing. Boxing, we have to fix it. And there are so many things we can do to fix it, but we do not work together. We don't have the magic stick to change things, but we do have resources. Instant replay. That's a must that should be in boxing.
Right.
The WBC does worldwide open scoring after the 4th and after the 8th round. Not in the USA, not in the UK, they do not allow it. But we have seen these great results because the fans know how the fight is going after the 4th and after the 8th. But most importantly, the corners, the fighters, they know where they're standing so they can adjust the strategy and not be surprised at the end of the fight that they have been robbed, as they all think when they lose a fight. So these things we can implement, but the boxing commissions, they do not want them to change because there's always resistance to change. We want to put 4 or 5 judges in the very important fights in order to make the possibility of a mistake of one judge much lower. If you have 5 judges in a fight, then you mostly guarantee that the winner will be the correct one. But the problem comes from the roots of everything, which is the appointment of ring officials. This is not universal. There is no agreement on the appointment of ring officials. So that is from state to state, and it's very difficult when you do not have reciprocity and agreements as a boxing organization with a local commission when you appoint the ring officials. Many fights, they're just appointed by the local commission, and then that's when the problems comes. Because you cannot have, we have neutrality of nationalities. How can you have an American fighter go to Japan and have 4 Japanese officials? Of course, the American fighter will not go. So every fight, there should be of neutral countries ring officials, referee and judges. But that does not happen. And then every judge that is appointed should be the one that should be sitting in that chair, and not just be appointed because he's a member or he's a friend or he has a nice look. So the appointing of ring officials is a major topic, that is a major problem that will always be very difficult to address.
Mauricio, the favorite word you used in that whole fine spiel there was reciprocity. You used some good words, man. Reciprocity.
Reciprocity, yes.
Yeah, I like
that is a
that
word that, you're mentioning that the sanctioning organization, the governing body,
Yep.
we do not have a outlet for the news. So an interview like this one is very rare.
Right.
All the fans are known about the organizations is what the press or the television said, and most of the times it is negative.
That's right.
Because it is very easy to blame it on the sanction organization.
Correct.
And because the sanction organizations have done many wrong things in the history. So I understand that.
Right.
But the issue here is when there's a championship fight, you're fighting for the belt of a sanctioning organization who owns the rights and accolades of that specific championship. So when you go into a jurisdiction and your rules are not accepted and your procedures are not accepted, and you even look like they're doing you a favor to allow you to sit there to supervise the fight, then it becomes a very difficult situation. But what we try to do is to always be amicable, to be reciprocal, and to try to make the changes that need to be done in the sport. Why we cannot change things today compared to the past, I don't know. Before, there were 15 rounds in a championship fight. We changed it to 12. That has changed many lives. The weigh-in was the day of the fight. Now it's the day before. That has changed many lives. There's so many. For example, the gloves were 6 ounces. The uniformity on the gloves, on the quality, on the certification, so many things. The ropes in the ring, before there were 3, now there are 4. So all those changes that happened in the 80s and before, maybe today could not be made. And it's very frustrating because we have many processes, many procedures, and many rules that are not implemented in the United States and a few other countries.
Mauricio, allow me to tell the listeners some of the good news, because I'm in agreement with you. It's too easy for media to report negativity. It's a faster, quicker way to get more hits than a positive story. I believe the WBC and their clean boxing program is the best and brightest formulation of how to deal with PEDs within fight sports right now. You work hard, and it isn't a perfect system. No system is perfect, but to me, at least you're trying and succeeding. When people actually test PED positive, to me, it's a positive in that it shows that the system is working, that it's actually catching people. So I'm publicly stating right now that I appreciate how you are trying to do your best in cleaning up the sport. Now, PEDs pop into the sport. It seems like they fall out of the news and then they fall back into it when someone tests positive. One thing that I think could be improved, and you know better than me, is that these people who hold WBC championships and are within the top 15 within the organization are enrolled in the clean boxing program. Now, for it to work, you tell me if I'm wrong, they have to be available all the time to take the test when a random test is requested of them. A few times in recent months, we've heard of people not being available. No need to relitigate the specifics on it, but I do want to ask, moving forward, how is that going to be handled? Do these people get fined if they miss 2 tests? Is it regarded as a positive? In other words, there has to be real teeth in the testing protocol, or else people in the era of microdosing can probably dodge the test. How do you make it so we make sure that these people are available for the tests and the testing is as stringent and as tough as it's designed to be?
Yes, when you have a program that is random, every fighter has to enroll and they fill a whereabouts form. In this form, you disclose where they can find you 24/7. It's your home, your gym, or your office, and you have to be reachable within 1 mile. So if we go to the practical side, of course there are times that, if I have to go to a meeting right now on the other side of the city, I just take a drive and go to my meeting and then come back. It is a system that is not perfect, and we have had missed tests, and we have had flexibility from the collectors. For example, one Sunday we went to test Golovkin, and he was in the movies with his kid. We have to understand that they are also human beings. So the collector waited for 4 hours and then took the test. There are times where we simply do not find the athlete. What we do, we investigate why there was a missed test, and we assess a penalty, and we can assess fines. And, of course, if there's something that continues to happen, then we take actions that can go even to a suspension.
All right. Good stuff, Mauricio. And I appreciate the transparency. That's one of the reasons that I think you're, to me, the best of all the sanctioning body oversight people, because you will interact with people, not just media. You interact with fans on Twitter, too. Can we get, please, an update on some of the other fine champions the WBC honors, such as Alexander Usyk? He still holds the WBC cruiserweight belt. Is that correct?
Absolutely. He won the World Boxing Super Series. He has unified the 4 championship belts, and he knocked out Tony Bello in a dramatic fight in November last year. And we have decided to our best as a WBC to maintain that division unified, because the fans like to have one champion. Hopefully he will remain unified. We're trying to find ways to have common mandatories within organizations, because a fighter, if he has to fight 4 mandatories in a year, he simply cannot have not even enough to comply in 1 year. So hopefully the World Boxing Super Series Season 2 is going on. We have a representative with Brady's, and hopefully the winner of the season becomes a mandatory for all the organizations. That's what we're trying to push.
That makes sense, Mauricio. Also, you have a light heavyweight champ, Alexander the Nail, holds the WBC belt currently. Is that correct?
Yeah, Vosdik. He had a dramatic win against Adonis Stevenson, who, by the way, thanks to the prayers of thousands from all over the world and his love shown by his wife and his family, he's recovering from that accident in the ring. So we are expecting Stevenson to get well very soon.
Nice to have some good news to start off the new year. You see, when someone becomes from head trauma comatose, oftentimes the news is bad. And to see that development, the news was a pick-me-up. Also, you have in the, it looks to me, in the WBC's 168 division. Is that title vacant right now, Mauricio?
Yes, the title is vacant. Benavides was found with an adverse finding from the clean boxing program, and he was set into a specific program where the WBC has aided the fighter with psychological. How do you call when you go to a expert?
Well, no, psychological testing and evaluation, and to help him, there was this situation where he tested PED positive, not for a regular PED, but for cocaine, and he actually came out and said, that was a youthful indiscretion, not something I want to repeat, and so he did, in fact, toe the line as far as getting help and understanding why that's not something that's appropriate for him. It is my understanding.
Yeah, he's going to psychological help. He's going to anti-doping testing. He has moved out of where he was living, and we're supporting him to get back on his feet. He's going to fight March 16 at the Dallas Cowboys Stadium, and then he will have a shot back against the champion, who will be resulting from Dirrell versus Chilterim fight of February.
All right, good. So that's on the to-do list for the 168s. Hey, you got that glamour division, Mauricio. Middleweight 160. What is the status of the WBC belt right now? Does Canelo Alvarez still hold that belt?
Yes, Canelo Alvarez is the WBC champion. The WBC convention received a request from Golovkin to do a mandatory direct rematch after the second fight. The WBC board voted to give Canelo a voluntary fight and order Golovkin versus Charlo to do a showdown and the winner to become the mandatory of the division. Golovkin is having his baby very soon, so we're going to wait and give him the time that he needs so he can come back to the activity and see if they accept to do Golovkin Charlo as a final elimination for the WBC interim, and then have a great mandatory for the division. Canelo fought in 168. We're going to contact him through this month to confirm if he's going to come back to 160 to confirm his championship status in the WBC.
What do you think he'll do? He had that compelling outing at 168. It was against a man that many people felt was overmatched, but seems like it's interesting and perhaps fruitful in that it opens up another division for him. But I presume probably you would like to see him go back to 160, better fights for him there?
I believe so. I think 168 is a way too big jump. He's a natural super welterweight. He feels comfortable in middleweight. I believe super middle would be a little bit too much for the size of Canelo.
Fair enough. And there any other WBC champions you want to mention? Tony Harrison, controversial situation. He beat Charlo. When do you think we would see a rematch between him and the smaller Charlo?
Yes. WBC has voted in favor to order the rematch. So that would be the next fight for Harrison and Charlo. In welterweight, we have our champion, Sean Porter, who's defending in March against Ugas. And that is a very hot division. You have Keith Thurman, you have Danny Garcia, you have Crawford. I believe the welterweight division is one of the best, if not the best right now, for quality of several fighters. And
Mauricio, last question before we go into your vacation situation, which really it wasn't a vacation from hell. I'll tease a little bit more, but an incredible story. What do you try to do to try to get some of these opposition parties together? We see that Top Rank is aligned with ESPN, PBC with Fox, and Showtime. DAZN is over there on an island themselves. Does that ever frustrate you? And do you have any positive news for us as far as you helping get any of these traditionally warring parties onto the same page so we can see the best fighting the best?
Well, I think we all must celebrate what is happening in boxing. To have so many huge platforms interested in the sport and airing fights is great. Now there's access to many events in several platforms in television, open television, cable, digital, in cellular phone, mobile. That is something that is great. The challenge is going to happen, as you mentioned, when fighters that belong to one and the other have to fight. That's going to be the challenge. So I am hoping that, once again, we use the word reciprocity. I am hoping that the promoters and the networks understand that the fans own the sport. And there are fights that need to be given to the fans. So, perfect example is Wilder against Joshua. That's a fight that belongs to the world. And hopefully promoters will come and find a platform in which everybody comes happy and gets their benefit, but the fights happen. It has happened, for many years, Don King against Bob Arum. But when they knew there were fights that made sense, they were partners and they were happy, shook hands and did the fight, and then they went on and continued their own way. But certainly, I am very positive that the promoters will understand that these fights will eventually have to happen, and they will come to their senses, negotiate, and make them possible.
Positive mindset from Mauricio Sulaiman, and that touches on where we're going next. In July of last year, I believe it was, Mauricio, his wife, and kids were preparing to go on a gala trip. I think they were headed to Europe, if I'm correct, and all prepared, ready to rock and roll, everyone packed, and then Mauricio started feeling some, pains in his stomach. Mauricio, tell us about this incredible tale, please.
Yes, we were going on a 5-week vacation for the first time, my wife and my 3 kids. We had everything ready, everything paid for, everything set. We were leaving Sunday night around midnight to London. Saturday morning, I started feeling like a food poisoning feeling. So I called my doctor. I didn't tell my wife. I didn't want to just worry her. The pain continued to grow. So I took the medicine that I was diagnosed. The pain started going from the stomach downwards to the urinal area. And I just didn't say anything. Sunday morning, I wake up and I feel the same. I called the doctor and tell him, give me the most strong shot so I can take the flight because this is painful. He gave me a shot. When I get to the airport, we're all checked in, and my daughter gives me a hug, and she says that I'm burning. So I took the temperature, and I had 104 fever. So I called the doctor to see what he can give me for the fever, and he's my friend for many years, and he just said, please do not get on that flight. Please come to the hospital right away. And I had to take the decision and told my wife and my kids to go on the trip, and I would follow in a couple of days once I get these resolved. I thought it was just an infection. So I go to the hospital, they fly out, and after a couple of days of trying to maintain the infection, it burst. So I get appendicitis. So I had to go on an emergency surgery on Wednesday morning, and it was a complicated surgery, which required me to be 2 days in induced coma with a respirator. So when I wake up and I start wake up and I have a tube in my mouth, it's the worst feeling you can ever have. And my hands are tied, and just it took some 8 hours for the tube to get out. I got to be completely awake. And then started the process. I had a complication, and I understood, and I got the medical side on the best side. It was a very good surgery. But then I understood that the way I lived for 48 years was enough. I had responsibility for my kids and my wife and my life. So I have changed my life around. I come back to exercising. I used to be a great athlete, but then I got to work in the company and then in the WBC, travel all over the place, wake up very early, go to bed very late, eat, have fun. So I changed my life around, and I've lost like 60, 70 pounds. I feel great. And I just feel very lucky that I had this opportunity, because it could have been a heart attack or it could have been a worse complication, but I have been given a second chance. So I'm enjoying life very much.
Good stuff, Mauricio, and I appreciate you being candid and honest with us and sharing that. It's not always easy to admit when we realize that we haven't been doing things so right. So you humbled yourself to do that, and I'm betting that helps 1 or 2 or 10 people who recognize their own situation, that maybe they should be getting back to the gym, and too many cheeseburgers and fries and beers, etc. It doesn't affect you the same way when you're in your 40s as it does in your 20s. So it sounds like you got to realize a second chance. And have you been sort of living mentally differently? We understand you have been losing weight and doing exercise. Does that change how you're going to be doing the job with the WBC and what you want to do as the head of the WBC, and sort of how you view the sport as a whole and the world as a whole?
Yes, it's a big change. You know, as I said, when I was 24, I graduated and I went directly to the family factory. And I'm like a workaholic. I work very, very much. And I'm of excellency. I don't like to do things in a mediocre way. So I do work. And if I have to wake up at 5 and take a plane and fly back on the same day, I do it. So I took so many things for granted. So many times my wife, my mother, my father, my friends, my doctors, my friends all over the place, they would say, you know, you should look out. You're gaining weight. You're big. You should take care of yourself. So many times I heard that. But never did I feel that it was happening. Only when this happened to me, I realized it. So for someone who smokes, or someone who has addictions, or someone who eats very much and is big, someone who has a personal problem, if you have diabetes and you love sweets, it is so difficult to get into a regime that will change your life for the good, because you have not suffered a traumatic experience. So I wrote a letter that I shared, and I don't like to be like a preacher, but to get someone's attention when they have not gone through it, it's difficult. And only what I can say is, if you exercise, if you drink lots of water, if you choose your foods, you know, responsibly, and because I love pizza, I love hamburgers, I love tacos, I love beer, I love whiskey and wine, but you cannot have excess. If you learn to enjoy it once in a while, then it's worth it. I remember, if you eat a hamburger every day, then you don't enjoy it as you used to if you have it once a week. So there are so many small tips that can help someone that is trying to attend a situation. But I'm sure every single human being has an issue, whether it's cigarette, whether it's food, whether it's alcohol, drugs, many other things. And we all can find a solution, but it's hard to understand it and to tackle it and get to work on it.
Mauricio, I appreciate your message of positivity and being candid about the health situation. Also, what you do in trying to make the sport better. I appreciate the way that you interact with media and fans. Where can people interact with you if they wish to ask you a question?
They can do it in Twitter or Instagram. My account is at WBCMORO, or they can send me an email to the WBC, which is contact@WBCboxing.com. We respond 100% of communications, and I do it myself personally at all times. And anytime fan or media reaches out, I personally believe, from the way my father taught us, is that we all deserve the attention, and we do respond and attend every single situation that is presented.
Mauricio, I wish you a happy and healthy new year. Appreciate very much you coming on TalkBox, and look forward to seeing you soon, pal.
Same to you, my friend. Let's have a great 2019.
Amen.